Ms. Spears.
You're welcome.
Now it is time for the Eagle Scout, Jacob Gatmaitan, to give us his reflections of the path to Eagle.
I would first like to start off with a thank you. I would not be able to stand here today as an Eagle Scout if it were not for the help of others. First and foremost, I would like to thank my parents. I realize that putting up with me isn't easy, but I thank you for pushing me to do the work I needed to do. Thank you so much for driving me to troop activities and for your constant reminders of what my priority should be. Thank you so much for providing me with the opportunity to see places of the world that many people will never see. I would not be standing here today without your patience and efforts. I would like to thank my Filipino family. While we may not be related by blood, I believe our bonds are stronger than that. Ever since I was a small child, you all have been willing to help me if I ever needed it, and I am really grateful for that. From helping me plan the design of my Eagle project to the manual labor involved, you all were essential to the process. I would like to thank my fellow Scouts as well. You never cease to impress me, and you have always kept the meetings and campouts entertaining. Thank you to the troop leaders, who always kept a positive attitude and were always willing to help me when I needed it. You all taught me what a good leader should be, and I hope to carry that into my future. Thank you to my teachers. You showed me how to be a good leader, and I will never forget the things that you taught me. Last, but certainly not least, thank you to my two younger brothers. You both are the reason I aspire to do so well. As an older brother, I believe it is my job to pave the way for you, and I want both of you to see what I'm doing and try and do better. I know you guys can do it. Thank you to everybody who has gotten me here today. My efforts could not have resulted in this success, and I look forward to utilizing all you have taught me. I started my scouting experience as a follower. I joined Cub Scouts as a Bear Scout because most of my friends were doing it. I initially wasn't too excited about the whole program, but I was more concerned with involving myself in the activities of my friends. Soon after joining, however, I fell in love with the program. I loved to sit around the fire with my friends, just having a good time. I stuck with Cub Scouts, making unforgettable memories along the way, such as winning 3rd place in the Pinewood Derby competition with my Apollo 13 car and learning how to build a fire. I got my Arrow of Light in 5th grade and continued to stay with the program. At this point, I was still a follower and decided to stay with my friends. I joined Troop 174, where most of my friends were crossing over to. The troop was intimidating when I first joined. It required a lot more independence than I was accustomed to, and frankly, I was too shy to approach most of the adults at the time. They were all so loud and I didn't understand their jokes. Because of my shyness, I felt I couldn't approach the upper-ranking Scouts, and thus I didn't advance too quickly along the ranks. At this point in time, I also noticed many of my friends dropped out of scouting on account of their other obligations. Thanks to my parents, I didn't join them in dropping out of scouting, and I continued to participate. In my 2nd year as a Boy Scout, I was first introduced to being a leader. It wasn't a formal position, but it was the first time I had felt such a responsibility. The new Scouts were crossing over, and even though nobody told me to, I felt somewhat responsible for these new Scouts. I could remember being in their shoes when they first joined the troop, and I didn't want those Scouts to feel the same kind of awkwardness and seclusion that I felt, so I took it upon myself to befriend these newer Scouts. This marked the beginning of a trend in my scouting career. A few years later, the troop had been given word that a large number of Cub Scouts were going to join the troop. Although it was only for a little under half a year, I decided to take these new Scouts under my wing and create the first tadpole patrol. Although I did not have any formal training in being a leader, I wanted these newer Scouts to feel more involved in the troop, so I became their friend as well. In my sophomore year of high school, I was elected to be the next senior patrol leader. I was not entirely comfortable with my leadership abilities. However, I was not going to back out of this position when so many people had put their faith in me. The experience was eye-opening. Trying to get everybody's attention was a struggle in itself. The extra work put more of a burden on me, but looking back, I'm glad it happened. The summer after my year as a senior patrol leader, I took a leadership course called National Youth Leadership Training. There, I received valuable lessons on how to be a leader. Junior year came around, and I found myself overburdened with schoolwork, extracurricular activities, and friends. My scouting participation dwindled throughout this year, but even so, I had attained the rank of life. Finally, the only thing standing in my way was my Eagle project. I wanted to involve myself in a project outside of my comfort zone. I am not a carpenter, nor do I have any experience with construction, so naturally I decided build something for my project. I had heard that my old principal from Tooten Hills Elementary School was retiring that year, so I wanted to give to the school some sort of memorial that would last as long as the impact Mr. Peralt had. I built a pair of benches in front of the school, to the right and left of the school's icon out front. I could not have completed this project on my own. It took the efforts and kindness of my parents, family, friends, Tooten Hills PTO, Sanford and Hawley, and neighbors to get the project done. I knew little to nothing about how precise the work would turn out to be. There even ended up being a mistake on the day of installation, and had it not been for Mr. Reichler's suggestion on how to fix the mistake that same day, I don't think the project would have been completed when it was. I struggled through the process, but I did not struggle through it alone. I'm happy with the outcome of the project, but I'm happier realizing all the people around me were so willing to help. It would be impossible to sum up my scouting experience because there are so many great memories involved. However, I can confidently say that I do not regret a single moment of my scouting career. And that brings me to where I am today. As a 17-year-old senior in high school, I realized a lot of things were growing up in Simsbury, Connecticut. To all you younger scouts, Simsbury is a great place to grow up. The people here are always willing to help you, and there are so many opportunities for new experiences. Boy Scouts has taught me what kind of leader I want to be, and what I need to do in order to become that leader. I learned that a leader should know when to follow others. I learned that it's almost always impossible to make everybody happy, but even so, we should look for compromise and seek to understand people anyway. I learned just how blessed I am to grow up in this community, and how amazing all my opportunities were. Living in Simsbury, I was given the opportunity to hike through the New Mexican mountains at Philmont Scout Ranch, perform with my orchestra in Sicily, Italy, and live with a French family for a week in Digne, France. These kinds of opportunities don't exist in other parts of the world, and I encourage all Scouts to take advantage of the opportunities presented to them. My next step in life is to attend college at New York University and study applied psychology at the Steinhardt School of Culture, Education, and Human Development. I could not have made it this far by myself, and I will be sure to utilize what all of you have taught me on my next step forward. Before I close, I would like to share some of my most memorable moments in scouting. In Philmont, I found it amusing when Sean Turley would stay mostly in the middle of the group until we approached the next camp. Then he would rush to the front of the line and dive into the swap box, scavenging for food. I thoroughly enjoyed the egg drop part of the patrol challenge. I remember when we used to go 6 or 7 rounds, and we would have to think of new ways to break the egg. This year, the patrols only lasted around 4 rounds, and I'm disappointed because I know you guys can do better than that. Another great memory was when my friends gave me quite the embarrassing spoonful of stuff during a blindfolded taste testing competition. Charlie? I couldn't feel my tongue for 2 days after that. Thanks, guys. I remember getting some of my eyebrows singed off when trying to make burgers over fire because a scout from another troop was poking the fire and then shot up in my face. And finally, I remember creating a 6-foot-high pillar of flame from a pan while trying to cook a traditional Filipino dish at Fisher's Island. Thank you so much for coming here today, and I'm closing my time with a presentation of the Mentors Award. I'd like to call Mr. Fogel up to the stand. I'm giving this award to Mr. Fogel. Mr. Vogel has been in the troop since before I started, and every time I see him, he's always got a positive attitude and is always willing to help out anybody who needs it. In short, he's a perfect example of a model scout. This definitely deserves recognition. Thank you, Mr. Vogel.